Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. And now to honor America, please join in the singing of our national anthem. Representing the three-time Stanley Cup champion New Jersey Devils, Arlette.
I feel like I'm at a game. Oh my gosh. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Hey, Sam, I got to tell you, I do a lot of hockey and I do a lot of podcasts and everything, and you guys have one of the best podcasts anywhere. It's knowledgeable, it's fun, and you do it right. So thank you for your time and for having me on the show.
Happy Devils Sunday. This is the Let's Go Devils podcast, season 3, episode 40. It's going to be a jam session because we've got former New Jersey Devil, awesome goalie extraordinaire. He also was the general manager of Team Canada in 2018 Olympics, pro hockey scout, Sean Burke, with us live from our Primetime Radio virtual studio, all powered by Nova Product Design from Primetime Radio, now simulcasting on the Primetime Radio Network. We are on Facebook Live, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube Live, and Twitch. Welcome to the podcast. Sean, how are you today?
Well, I'm pretty good. I'm healthy, guys, and I hope you are too. And right now, as we all know, that's the main thing as we navigate through this coronavirus.
Yes, and we really appreciate you coming on. We always try to entertain our fans during this time, and really appreciate setting up your home studio in your basement. I know you got your guitar, ready. We're going to do that, but let's start off and talk some hockey. So the season went to a complete halt. The Devils, in fact, were starting to show some life in February. Mackenzie Blackwood, who I actually was telling the guys off air that I kind of likened him to you because of the size and being a rookie goaltender. What do you think of him? What do you think of Mackenzie Blackwood?
I really like his game. I've had a chance over the years when I've done some work with Team Canada. We've had Mackenzie at a couple of our goalie camps. So I've known Mackenzie before he got to the NHL, and what a good prospect he was. To be honest, what I first remember about him, and I think most people will tell you the same thing, was I was very impressed with his size, his conditioning. This kid's an athlete, and I don't think sometimes people put as much value in that when it comes to goaltenders, and it gets overlooked. But with this kid, what I like most about him is he's competitive, and he's got a lot of the physical tools that should make him a a really good goalie in this league for a long time.
Yeah. Go ahead, Scotty.
Well, Sean, yeah, thanks for joining the podcast. Welcome coming on. Glad to hear that you're doing well. It's all smart that we're all staying healthy and keeping our social distancing and everything like that right now. But you were talking about it there with Mac Black. I want to get in and pick your brain about the old Devils Blackhawks game there back in '88 a little bit, but maybe tell us just a little more about what you see in Mac Black as someone who was, a young up and coming goaltender on a team like the Devils that was on the rise like then. The Devils team now, they have a lot of up and coming stars like Nikita Gusev, Jesper Bratt, all of these kids that are still getting Jack Hughes, obviously still not ready yet, but they're getting there.
Yeah, I was telling Sam earlier today that I saw the Devils probably 4 of their last 5 games before the league was interrupted. I happened to be in the East and catching a number of their games as they worked their way out west back out here, and they played extremely well. They've got, as you mentioned, some really good young players. I think as the years moved along, they've obviously gained confidence. A lot of that starts with your goaltending. If your goaltending is good, as everybody knows, guys can play differently. They can go out and do their own job. They don't worry about making mistakes as much. And that's what I saw with this team is that, their goaltending really was good. Corey Schneider played extremely well the last number of games I saw him play, which has been a while since he had found his game. And so when you get 2 goalies that are playing well, you start to win hockey games, and I think they've got a real legit number 1 goaltender for a number of years. Obviously, if he stays healthy and continues to develop, but all the signs are that this guy's the real deal.
So you mentioned you mentioned how Corey was going through some troubles there. Was there ever a point in your career where you kind of went through that? That lull where you felt like you just couldn't put it together. I know I've never played at the level you have, but I do play goal and I've gone through those stretches. What did you do at the NHL level to help you get through that?
Well, yeah, first of all, I think I went through it once or twice a year, every year in my career, to be honest. I mean, it's a forever battle. Consistency is obviously what everybody's striving for, and that is elusive sometimes. As a goaltender, there's so many factors, so many variables at times. But what I found as I got later on in my career, I got more consistent because I kept things a lot more simple, and I realized what my strengths were. I knew what I didn't do very well, and so. When I went into games, I really kept my game as simple and as easy as I could. And for me, what that meant was that I wasn't overactive. I played in the blue. I used my athletic ability that if I needed to scramble, I could. But my game was based at that point more around reading the play, good positioning, and, of course, competing. I think that what gets lost sometimes, again, for goalies is if you think back to Hasek and Marty and some of these guys, they were incredible competitors. And, it's no different than any other position. You got to go out there, and it's a one-on-one battle. You against the shooter, and you got to win that battle.
Yeah, because I know we've been, looking for old hockey stuff to watch, and I caught that Brodeur versus Hasek playoff game from – it's escaped me. Was it 94? I think it was. It was the triple overtime. The Devils lost, but you look at the competition just between the two of them, and just watching them kind of feed off each other during that game. They were just trying. It almost seemed like they were trying to one up each other with saves. Unfortunately, we didn't come out on top in that game. But I sent it to my high school goalie that I coached, and I was like, just watch this from the 90s. This is what. This is a real great show of goaltending, and he loved it. That's one of those games. It's just like, wow, these guys are just playing off of each other.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. When I was in the league, I was no different than I think most of the guys. You're always watching other goalies. You're watching the highlights at the end of the night. You want to see how other guys are playing. And if I was playing one of those teams that had an elite goalie on it, like a Hasek or a Patrick Waugh or a Marty, I would go watch some practice, or I'd watch, the morning skate. And, I can tell you, Hasek was a guy for me. He was almost a freak at times. He'd go into the game, and in the pregame warm-up, he wouldn't give up a goal. And you'd watch, and you couldn't believe how competitive he was. And with that race, it was for a lot of guys. No different than Tiger Woods in golf. When a guy comes along that is competing that hard, it just naturally raises the level of everybody else's game, and that's what those goalies did in the generation I was playing in. Was they made you want to be better because you wanted to be able to compete against them.
Yeah, I had heard a story that the morning before, or the morning of the gold medal game, whatever that last practice that Hasek was in with the Czech Republic, that he did not let in a goal at practice. He was just so ready for that game and ready to win that gold medal that he let nothing in at all that day.
Yeah, and I believe that. I mean, there's a lot of, stories that over the years the tail gets a little longer down the line, and you start to wonder if that's really But I can tell you from watching all those guys I mentioned, those are stories that I would believe because I've seen it myself, and it's like anything when you get to a certain level, and the NHL is the best league in the world. The guys that are at the top of that league are extra special, and those were definitely goalies that I looked up to. Obviously, I competed against them night after night, and wanted to win and wanted to be better than them on a lot of nights. But you can also learn a lot from guys like that just from watching them.
Beer Baron, your mic's off.
Beer Baron, put your mic on, buddy.
Yeah, there we go. Now I can ask a question.
Go.
I was reading your lips there.
He's a low talker. Like he's like a low talker.
It's in my cup there. That was the question, right? What's in your mug?
So my question to you is, when you're in a league, what did you have like a couple of guys that you almost dreaded going against, or maybe that you would see coming down the ice and you'd be like, oh crap, like here comes Yager, or here comes Lemieux, or here comes whomever. Did you have like a list of guys that you were like, oh man, I don't want to see this guy again, like coming in and taking a shot?
Well, that's pretty amazing. You just read my mind. You did it backwards, though. It was Lemieux, then Yager, but those were the two guys. You must have been going back and watching old highlights or something.
Oh man, I watched a highlight of both of them. I forget who put it up, but somebody put up a highlight reel, and all they did was just they were in the zone and just like weaving in between people, and it was like magic. And the caption of the video was just like they were a cheat code before there was cheat codes. So.
And the interesting thing was in those days, obviously Wayne Gretzky was dominating the league, but he was playing out west. And when I was with the Devils, and then I went to Hartford, I was basically 9 years in the East. So we didn't see Gretzky a lot. We saw him once, twice a year, but I saw Mario and those guys 5 or 6 times a year. So yeah, for me, I would say Pittsburgh was at the top of their game for a lot of those years. They had a whole slew of talent. If you remember, they had not only Lemieux and Yager, but they also had Ron Francis, and they had Stevens, and they had Coffey, and on and on. And so Pittsburgh was always a game you got up for, but you also hope that those guys might want to take a night off every once in a while.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Scotty. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No. You guys, it's all right. I'll save mine because it's about Hartford. That's what
I was just gonna ask. Please, do you still have like one of those classic Hartford Whaler jerseys? I hope somewhere.
My favorite logos of all time.
It's like one of the greatest hockey logos ever.
You know what I do? You know what the sad thing is? I mean, I'm in my office right now, and I don't have any real memorabilia. I have some pictures up in here. I have all my jerseys. I don't have a New Jersey Devil jersey, and I don't have my New Jersey mask because they were there was a guy that was on eBay that had my mask, and he was holding me for ransom. Basically, he wanted, and I wasn't going to do that. But I don't have a New Jersey Devil jersey from the days I played, and I don't have my mask, which are the only in my whole collection of all my memorabilia stuff I've had over the years. It's the only two things I don't have.
See, now we gotta hunt this guy down. We're gonna make him.
Yeah.
Flip it over. That's not right.
Yeah.
We can. I offered a whole bunch of stuff, but I forget what it was he wanted, and I just at the end of the day, I was like, I'm not going to give in and give you the world for that, for that mask. But looking around now, I've got a 5-year-old now, and I've got an older son and a stepson. I probably should go back and try to negotiate, and so at least they have it over the years.
Yeah, or maybe one of us, one of our fans could reach out and find out whoever this guy is. Text Sam on the side. Send Sam on the side the message of who the guy's name is. We're not going to threaten anybody, but we'll talk to him. We'll do the old Jersey talk to him.
So you guys don't know. He's just going to go say hi. He's just going to go say hi. That's all.
I know a guy or two. We might have somebody go pay him a visit.
He's just going to go say hi, say hello, how you doing? That's all. Friendly chat.
You need to call Vito or Tony or Mario. We'll get that taken care
of. Yeah, I just want to put it out on Facebook Live, Twitter Periscope, and YouTube Live. If anybody can find Sean's helmet and jerseys, you can email me, sam@letsgodevils.com. We will find a reward, one of our memorabilia, piles, and we'll send you off a gift. But you gotta show up with the authenticity of the helmet and the jersey, and I'll get at it right now.
Oh, that's sweet. I appreciate that. Like I said, again, I didn't really follow up, but it is out there somewhere on, in the eBay world. There was my mask that was on online at one time.
Wow.
Now, are you sure it was your actual mask and not a replica?
Well, it could have been, but the reason I believe it was the original was it did go missing. And I remember that, it was at the end of the season, my last year in Jersey, it went missing. I didn't think much about it. And then this one that showed up, I saw a picture of it online, and it looked to me, with the way the straps and everything had worn down, it looked pretty authentic. So again, I didn't get a chance to look at it physically, but just from pictures and looking at it, it sure looked like it was the real thing.
Well, it's definitely out there somewhere, and we have a wide range of listeners around the world. So I'm sure we can find someone that has it, and maybe we can work something out for you. We would be glad to help you get back that helmet, because, man, I couldn't imagine losing my helmet, to someone else. I'm on a bunch of Facebook groups for goalie stuff, and there, people are constantly selling pro return stuff, and it's like, wow, it's got to be a bummer if one day you want it, you want it back, or you like in your case where you want that helmet and you would love to have it.
Well, it's funny with memorabilia for me. I didn't really get sort of too nostalgic about things over the years until you get a little older. And, I do have a lot of jerseys. I have a lot of my masks. I have that kind of stuff. But if you were to come to my house, you would have no idea. None of it is displayed anywhere. I've never put that stuff up. I just now would like to have it because my kids think it's really cool. And that's really what it comes down to, is those are things that, especially my youngest is never going to know his dad played. He may know at some point I played in the NHL, but he'll never see it. He's way too young. So some of those things are just nice to have around, and I do have plenty of them. I'll actually show you something really cool right here. This is actually a mask that I wore in Arizona, and that's signed by Jimmy Page.
Oh, that's cool!
Wow,
so cool.
Yeah, so
very cool.
Those are some of the things that I've been fortunate enough to sort of have and keep. But again, it's not like I'm looking to break any legs to get my mask in New Jersey. If there's an easy way to do it and it worked out, I'd be happy to have it. But if somebody has it out there and is enjoying it and it's great for their collection, then I'm okay with that too.
So I have a question about the Hartford Whaler days. Did you ever have a chance to, or even just in general, just being in the fraternity of being in the NHL, did you get a chance to hang out with Gordie Howe?
You know what? I really got to know Mr. Howe very well. I was very lucky. Yeah, he was on our. I guess at that time it would have been called board of directors. He was, Yvonne Lendl, Gordie was on that board, and there was a number of people that Richard Gordon, the owner at that time, had on his board. So I got to know Mr. Howe really well, and I've got a great picture somewhere. I think it's on my phone celebrating his 80th birthday with him. He happened to be up in Calgary, and I was there at the time watching a game, and we ran into each other. But he's, he was for me a little bit before my generation. As far as when I was watching as a kid, it was Bobby Orr, and then that generation. But he to me was just one of the most genuinely nice, classy men that I've ever met. And I tell you, when you meet somebody like that who handles themselves the way he did, it's very humbling as an athlete, because you realize quite quickly that if the greatest guys in your game handle themselves that way, then boy, you better handle yourself that way as well.
Yeah.
I actually have a Gordie Howe story. It's a little embarrassing, but I'll tell it anyway. 2012 NHL All-Star Game. It was up in Ottawa. And, I brought the crew up there. Everything was on the corporate card. But anytime you put things on a corporate card in a different country and don't tell your credit card, things get declined. So here I am on my cell phone calling internationally, because I can't call the 800 number. So I'm calling internationally on my cell phone, and I'm screaming. I think it was Chase. I was screaming at him. And then it gets to the part, what's the password on your account? And here I am in the lobby of the Marriott, because that's where the media hotel was. And behind me, and I didn't know it, was Mark Howe and Gordie Howe. And I'm screaming every pet name that I've had, dogs or fish. And I'm like, pickle, donut, just screaming at the guy. And I'll never forget Gordie Howe. He had his elbows up, and he just turns around and just stares at me like I was like the biggest. That's Gordie Howe stare, like I was the biggest idiot. And I just nodded at him, and then I just walked to the other side. So that's my encounter with Gordie Howe. That's the only time I've ever got close to him, and I didn't even know it till the last second. I felt like an idiot, but I just had to tell that story there.
I think Gordie Howe was going to punch you in the face. That's what I think. I think he was getting ready.
That elbow was ready. It was just the elbow, because I was screaming into the. I think at that time was a BlackBerry. I think I had I had a BlackBerry. Man. And I'm just and you know how the BlackBerries used to freeze, and you have to pull the battery from behind and reset it. So yeah, but that's my Gordie Howe story, and I'll stick to it.
Well, that's a terrific family, and I was just going to say that I've been not only fortunate to have met Gordie and got to know him a little bit, but his sons, that Marty and Mark, that both played, are also terrific guys. And Marty in particular is a really good friend of one of my best friends in Hartford that I'm still very close to. So I've seen Marty recently. I saw him at a wedding last summer, and that is that's a family that should be very proud. Not only obviously Gordie was an amazing man, but his kids have grown up to be terrific guys as well.
Yeah. Man, I wish they would bring the Hartford Whalers back. That's just a personal opinion, but
oh yeah, love those unis. So classic.
Everything.
And
about
actually, speaking of teams with great uniforms, I want to take us back to 1988. You were in goal for a very special game for the New Jersey Hockey Devils against the Chicago Blackhawks. I was wondering if you could take us through this day and the game. If anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, but the last game of the season to clinch a berth in the playoffs. As a young goalie, I can only imagine the amount of pressure, that was there for that. So just take us through the day and the game.
Yeah, well, what's really interesting about that is, I came right out of the Olympics into New Jersey. So I had been playing for the year and a half prior to that against some of the best teams in the world, the Russians. If you guys remember the Red Army team with Fedorov
Oh yeah.
and I had been playing against those teams for about a year and a half and had just come out of the '88 Olympics. So not to downplay it, but when I walked into New Jersey, I had already been in probably as high a pressure situation for a young guy as I was going to be in. And I came into New Jersey and we got on a roll. It was almost a blur. We had a young team with, obviously Muller and McLean and Verbeek, Shanahan, all these young guys, and we just gelled really quickly. So when it got to that game in Chicago, it seemed now looking back like, wow, it was a one-game chance to make the playoffs, but we had already been playing games like that every game leading up to that. So it was really just another game. And, I mean, now, if we'd have lost that game, we would have never made the playoffs. We would have never won those 2 rounds. But at the time, we were just such in a frame of mind that every game was do or die, that it really wasn't much different. We prepared for the game. We knew we had to win, but we had already played 10 games like that in the prior 3 weeks. So it was really fate in a lot of ways. We went into overtime. We had 4 ways to win games. And, of course, John McLean, who was always a clutch player, there's only a 5-minute overtime, and sure enough, he found a way to score the goal. But that whole year, right from the time I came in, right till the time we got knocked out by Boston, it was almost a blur. And we were just in the frame of mind of, hey, show up, play hard, we have a chance to win. And we just carried that right through.
Very cool. And Danico scored in the second period. If Danico scores, something's good has got to happen right there, right?
Well, he probably, typical Danico fashion, he probably skated by the bench and yelled at everybody, "Isn't that the greatest goal you've ever seen?" or something like that. Because Danico was famous for that. But I got to tell you, he was. If I'm kind of rating my top 5 all-time favorite teammates, Ken Danico would be in that list.
That's funny is one of the a few of the questions in the Facebook group were, who were some of your favorite players that you've played with, which came from our really good friend David Decker and Matt Salander, if I probably butchered that name. What is your favorite memory of playing for New Jersey?
Well, my favorite teammates, I had a lot because I played on a lot of teams. By the time I was done, I was on 9 teams. And, I was very fortunate. I played with, I would say, a lot of the top players in the league by the time I was done playing, whether it was in the NHL or on a international team for Canada. So that's a real hard one. I mean, I do have a real fond memory of that first New Jersey team because it was my, obviously, introduction into the NHL. We had a lot of young guys. And I think of all the teams I've ever been on, I probably have stayed closer to those guys than a lot of other teams. I work with Kirk Muller now in Montreal. I just saw Johnny McLean last couple of weeks ago before this whole thing. Well, I guess it's more than a couple of weeks ago now, but I saw Johnny McLean. We went and grabbed a beer. I see Pat Verbeek all the time. Brendan Shanahan and I are still in touch. So, I'd have to say that team, Tommy Curvers, I still talk to Tommy quite a bit. And so a lot of those old New Jersey guys are guys that when you have that sort of experience with early in your career, you stay close to those guys your whole life. The second part of that question, repeat that because I got rambling and I forgot it.
No, it's all good. But just like a fond memory that you had, or what do you think was your favorite moment? I guess in answering that question, you kind of answered both of them. But do you have anything that really stuck out in your mind?
Yeah, you know what I really remember now that you bring that back is you're talking about Chicago. And what I really remember, one thing about the old Chicago Stadium, they had a lot of stairs. You had to walk out from the dressing room up this probably 20 stairs to get to the rink. So, each period doing that, and then after the game, it was a lot of. But I remember after winning that game, obviously the excitement on the ice. And then I can remember walking down those stairs, and at the bottom was our general manager at the time, Max McNabb. And he had tears in his eyes. He was crying because he was just so excited about us making the playoffs. And for me as a young player to see a general manager who not only was, in the league a lot of years, but was a really terrific person, it just felt so satisfying that he was that happy. And so I thank you for bringing that memory back, because that's what I really remember out Chicago that night, is winning that game and just the excitement and the elation around our team in the dressing room and around our whole group.
That's cool. That's really cool. How the 20 stairs, you had to walk that in full goalie gear?
Full goalie gear, no skate guards. Yeah, it was horrible. Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah.
And, I still dread it. I mean, they had that building was still for a few years. I was sure glad when the new Chicago stadium came into the league.
Wow. Sean, we have a lot of young viewers and listeners that are listening to the podcast, and we talk about the 80s, we talked about the 80s and 90s, the early days of the Devils, and I'm the oldest one of the bunch, and I remember back, I'm older than you guys, but I remember back then what it was like to be a Devils fan as an 8-year-old. And I was telling you, earlier today, this 1988 team is like my sentimental all-time favorite out of all the teams, even the 3 Cup teams, because in those days, if you remember, and I argue with Rangers fans all the time, that for every Devils fan in elementary school, there was 20 Ranger fans. And the reason why, and Ranger fans won't admit it, is back then their parents were cheap. When you had basic cable, if it was available back then, MSG came with a package where Sports Channel was $9.99 or $9.95 a month. On top of that, I will also say, when I first got into hockey, it was only the Rangers on WWOR Channel 9. It was Bob Froese was the goalie, Kelly Kissio was the centerman, and anytime I tried to get into hockey, the Rangers would lose like 8-1, 5-2. They're always on the road. I never get to see their home white jerseys, this and that. But because of that 88 team, and I looked, I was like, I can't cheer for the Rangers. So I'm looking, there's Islanders, and in the Star Ledger, hey, there's New Jersey Devils in the standings, and you guys were like rising at that point when I was in 4th grade, because I just looked at the standings, and Rich Scher was the writer. And without that 88 team, there's probably no Let's Go Devils podcast. That team inspired me as like an 8-9-year-old. And it was really cool. And most these young Devils fans don't realize it. It was 20 against 1 in elementary school and middle school. It was like you were outnumbered. And I bet you those Devils Rangers games back in the late 80s and the early 90s, because I hate to admit to this, I was in a lot of fights in the late 90s and early 2000s. It wasn't pretty. It was body armor day. I mean, do you remember Devils Rangers games, the rivalry back then, playing in net, like how intense it was as years went by?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for me, obviously Madison Square Garden, what a thrill it was to go in there as a young player. And, the great thing about playing for the Devils was there was this natural rivalry, and you could sense in the building in the first 5 or 10 minutes, if the Rangers weren't playing well, the fans already started to turn on them a little bit, and it just gave you so much more momentum as a visiting player. And, as a Devil player, that was our rival. That was our number one rival. And that run you're talking about in 88, if I remember correctly, we made the playoffs in Chicago on the last day. It actually knocked the Rangers out. It knocked them out of it.
Yep.
So it added a little extra, kick in the ribs to them. And I'll tell you a funny story about a little different than what you're talking about, but sort of along the same lines. My second or third year in New Jersey, I thought I was pretty cool, so I went and bought a Corvette. And I thought I'll just, sort of fly around town. I'm a big deal now. And I was on my way to a game at the Meadowlands, and I got pulled over because I wasn't speeding. The policeman must have thought, this young punk's driving around in this Corvette. I'm going to pull him over. And I asked him what he was pulling over. He said, well, you were tailgating. So I thought, well, this is the perfect time to tell him who I am. I'm Sean Burke. I'm on my way to a game. You're going to let me off. And he said, well, you know what? I do think you're a pretty good player, but I'm a Rangers fan. And I got the ticket anyway in New Jersey from a New Jersey policeman. So I realized that I know how it works around here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I mean, we had a governor not too recently that was a Ranger fan, so it was like, it's still to this day. You're seeing big people around the state that are Ranger fans. Unfortunately, it's we're still kind of getting out of the shadow of the local rivals. I mean, we're still the young kids on the block, really. But eventually that'll all change. So Sean, I'm curious.
Obviously, if you look just at the history now from those days, 88 through now, I mean, winning 3 Stanley Cups.
Oh, yeah.
The New Jersey Devils under Lou Lamoriello were, really the class of the league for a lot of years, and a team that, a lot of other organizations aspired to be. So it may never be where, the Devils get the same media attention in a lot of ways, but I think as far as success and being an organization that people respect, they've sure done themselves proud.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I love telling Ranger fans that are, we'll start, talking a little crap here and there. It's like, well, how many times have you won since 94? Oh, wait, no, you only won that one time, and we've won 3 times since. And then I also love throwing that they should have more, that we have 3, they only have 4, and they had many more years to win the cup before we came around. So they should have more for as long as their franchise has been around. So I think we're in years as a franchise versus wins. I think we definitely have them there.
I'm going to stay out of the battle though, because you can't win going up against New Yorkers. You got to give them a lot of credit too. They that's not the people that I want on my bad side. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Sean, let us fight the battles. You stay neutral, but we'll find your mask though.
Yeah.
Probably a Ranger fan has it. Now that you say
I was just going to say that.
Speaking of rivalries, in your playing days, in the 9 teams that you played for, what do you feel like? And you don't have to say, "Oh, it's the Devils Rangers" because you're on here. But what do you feel like the best rivalry that you played in your time in the NHL? Like, what was the most intense matchup that you ever had?
Yeah, for me, it took me a lot of years to kind of realize the difference between playing in the West and playing in the East. And, a lot of the teams out West are newer teams. The Rangers have been around, obviously, in Original 6. There's a lot of natural rivalries in the East with the Bostons, and, you got New York and Chicago and all these teams. So, there's some good rivalries out West. There's been some that have developed over the years. But for me, looking back, it would have been the Devils Rangers. When I was in Hartford, there was a good rivalry with Boston.
Oh, yeah.
And you just don't get the West. You just don't get those same, intense, because you got fans that their parents have been fans and their parents have been fans, and it's been a kind of passed on through the generations. Some great rivalries out West now in California and places like that. It just doesn't have the same history that some of the teams in the East have.
Yeah, true. That's going to make that Vancouver-Seattle is going to be an awesome rivalry. Once Seattle gets established,
right there.
Yeah, that's going to be an awesome one too.
Yeah, and Vegas, I mean, I got to give them, as we all do, a ton of credit. Nobody saw them having the success as early as they did. I've been very lucky. I worked with George McPhee, as part of a management group for Team Canada, and I know how hard they worked and how smart that group is. but they've already created rivalries out here with Los Angeles and some of the California teams because they've been successful. And really, that's at the end of the day, what really makes a rivalry great is when you got teams that are winning that go up against each other, because the intensity in the playoffs is so different in our sport than a lot of other sports. You can't match it. NHL playoff hockey is incredible.
Oh yeah, agreed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Sean, what have you, that we've all been, staying home and doing during this pandemic and everything like that. I hear you've been doing some guitar lessons.
Yeah. Well, guys, I always
tell her. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, not to cut you off there. It's one of the things that, for me, over the years has really just been a hobby, obviously. I think that when you have as much downtime as an athlete has on the road, sometimes you got to find some things to kind of decompress and to get your mind off the game. So music was always, from the time I was a kid, was something that I was always interested in, but I didn't have any natural ability. I didn't come from a musical family. I was gifted, thank goodness, ability in sports, and have been very grateful for that. But music for me has been a hobby, and I've got to the stage now where I enjoy it. I can sit down and play well enough that if I want to give a beginner a lesson, I can do that. And that was my idea, was if anybody's out there through this pandemic that's sitting around, wants to try and do something positive, music's great that way. And I thought I'd share some basic lessons, because I get asked all the time from teammates and people that I know who want to pick up a guitar but are intimidated by it. And I'm an example of a guy that I never have had any real natural ability. I've just been self-taught and learned some things over the years. So I thought this is a good time to do it.
And when did you start playing?
Well, I really started playing in '88. With the Olympic team. We traveled. Yeah, we traveled. Extensively in those days to Europe. We were on the road a lot. And that first year when I came into New Jersey, funny thing, we went through the playoffs, and then the next year I moved in with Brendan Shanahan, and he had to put up with my sort of infancy to the guitar and listen to me learn 3 chords and play them over and over again. So I'm grateful to Shanny for the first couple of years that he actually was able to put up with that.
You're just playing Blitzkrieg Bop over and over again, basically, just 3 chords, just on a replay.
No, funny thing, it was the Appetite for Destruction album came out that year, Guns N' Roses.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
I must have spent 2 years trying to learn Sweet Child of Mine, and the only other thing I could play was Stairway to Heaven. So Shanny heard my version of Stairway to Heaven about 1,000 times.
Would you take the guitar on the road with you?
Yeah, I've taken it on the road over the years. I usually would leave one right on the airplane. There's most of the teams now, unlike those days where we were still flying commercial a lot of the time, everybody charters now. So I would usually just leave one on the airplane, and if we were on an extended road trip, I'd pull it out and take it to my hotel room. Again, it's something that I wanted my kids to do. I think it's great to learn an instrument. There's a lot of benefits for your memory. You're using both sides of your brain. I mean, there's a lot of research out there, and again, it's for me, it's something positive that if you're sitting around, you're going to watch TV, you're going to do something to entertain yourself. This is as good as anything I could come up with.
And you said you had the. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Shorts guy.
No, I was just going to ask how's the response been to the lessons and all that, and putting it out there for everybody.
You know what? I don't know how good it is because I'm terrible on social media. I don't have. So I thought I'm going out on YouTube, and I had to have my wife set that up for me, and then I didn't have Twitter because I did the typical Twitter mistake where I think one night I was probably shouldn't have been tweeting, and I tweeted something out when I shouldn't have. So I got rid of Twitter, and now I'm just coming back to everything. So I think the response has been good. But really, I just kind of put them out there, and they seem to be floating around out in space, if you ask me.
Wow. And you were mentioning over there, the helmet that you have behind you is signed by Jimmy Page, and of course, you were just talking about learning how to play Zeppelin's "Stairway to Heaven." Can you just tell us about you met him? You got to hang out with them? Did you get to jam a little? What was going on?
No, I wish. I've been fortunate. I have had the opportunity over the years to meet a lot of musicians and hang out with some of them. I've played on stage with Garth Brooks.
Wow.
I've played with some other bands at times. Funny story. I just thought of this as well. When Slippery When Wet came out, 1988 New Jersey, Bon Jovi. I hung out with Bon Jovi in the band a little bit, and I would be in their dressing room before the show, and I would stretch their drummer, Tico Torres, because he was ready to go out and he wanted to get stretched. So I got him down on the floor and stretched his hamstrings out for him, and then I got in the huddle with the band before they went out onto the stage in the Meadowlands. And so, looking back, that's another real nice perk you get as an athlete sometimes, is you get to meet some of these people. And I got to give a shout out, actually, not that you'll necessarily see it, but Bon Jovi right now through this whole pandemic has been doing a lot of great charitable work and raising funds and that kind of thing. And I think back to 1988 when that band first kind of hit it big, and I was kind of around that. It was pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah, Bon Jovi's been. No, I was just going to say Bon Jovi's been doing a lot of stuff with kids and putting their lyrics to some of his songs, which has been really cool. There's definitely been a lot of that going on right now, which is great to see, because everyone kind of needs that little bit of a cheering up in their current situation.
Well, yeah, if you think of music in the New Jersey area, the obvious ones are Bruce Springsteen and Bon Jovi, but that area has put out a lot of great musicians over the years, a lot of great music. I was very fortunate to get to know Max Weinberg quite well, who is Bruce Springsteen's drummer. So I've got to meet Bruce at times. I've been backstage with them. And, for me, New Jersey, because I was so young when I played there, and as you mentioned, that 88 team sort of had the most success the organization had up to that point, I really dove into the New Jersey scene, and I was fortunate to get to meet all these people and be around it in those days. I probably didn't appreciate it as much as I do now, but it's really been cool right now through this whole thing to watch, like you said, how those guys are still giving back after all these years. They're still big and they're popular and they're doing what they can do.
So 88 Bon Jovi, those must have been some interesting outfits. I'm thinking there was some spandex and some
feathered hair,
some hair tees. Now, Sean, were you going with the spandex look when you went to the Bon Jovi concert, or no?
I had the hair, the mullet. The mullet that was what we were doing in those days anyway. But I'm pretty sure I had the jean jacket going. That's probably what I was wearing.
Yep.
I wouldn't have spandex on, but I probably had, what we call it, the Canadian tuxedo, jeans and a jean jacket. I was probably wearing that.
So,
love it.
Did you ever, during that whole time, did you ever have a moment where you're like, what the hell is going on? I'm like hanging out with a rock band. I'm playing in the NHL. Like you're going on this wild ride with the team. Did you ever have one of those moments where you're just like, this is too much. This is insane.
Yeah, I think when you're young like that, you probably don't appreciate it. I was very lucky. I came into the league, as I said, coming out of the Olympics. And so I was sort of a guy that I didn't go to the minors. I didn't have to slug my way through the American League. I was a little bit spoiled in some ways that I went to the national team and got to play in the Olympics and then stepped into the league, and I didn't really have to fight for my job right away. Jim Schoenfeld basically handed me the keys and said, "Hey, it's your time. Let's see what you got." But it really came back to bite me. I think that I was young and immature at times. And as the years went by, you start to, I struggled. I struggled after that for a couple of years because I didn't really, I thought it was going to be like that every year. I thought, boy, this is great. This is not so hard. And you get caught up in some of those other things. I was hanging out with, like you said, I'm backstage with these bands, and I've got sort of access to these things as a young guy, and reality kind of hit, and I came back to earth in a hurry. And luckily, I was able to sort of right the ship and have a long career. But it was pretty obvious to me that if you're not careful, you can get caught up in some of those things, and before you know it, you're not putting the time and the effort and the priorities into the right things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same goes for music too. It's if you're playing in a smaller band and you're immediately in front of those big crowds, you think that's the way it is. But it's playing all those small little VFW halls, the bars that have 3 people in it. Kind of earning your way through. Or playing in empty rooms, which yeah, pretty much. Like Scotty and myself have been in bands before, and we've played in front of a dozen people, and we've played in front of 4.
The bartender and his dog.
Yeah, our girlfriends and the bartender. That's
and a dog.
Yeah.
And we got paid in beer.
It's kind of very similar. It's so very similar to sports. You kind of have to you get those early lessons on, and you kind of use it and you have it in your back pocket for later on in the career.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, and again, I think for me, I was fortunate early on that I had some success because it obviously it motivates you. But on the other hand, you have to be very careful because everybody then kind of guns for you. And if you come into the league and you have success, well, everybody says, okay, you know what? Now, we need to play harder against them, or we need to beat them. And if you're not mature enough to realize you got to put that work in every day, every night, all summer long, it's the best league in the world. And what happened to me, quite honestly, was I got a second chance to go back and play in the Olympics in '92. So I played my 4 years in New Jersey, and Lou Lamoriello and I got to a point where he offered me a contract that was very fair, but I wasn't having fun anymore. And I wanted to kind of enjoy the game again and go back to sort of my roots. So I went back and played a year. I took a year out of the NHL, and I went back and played in the Olympics again. And I thought, well, you know what? This is what I need. What I didn't kind of, account for was that all of a sudden a guy named Marty Brodeur came in, and the New Jersey Devils never thought about me again. So, it was great, but then it was time for me to move on. And that's how I ended up in Hartford. But without taking that step back and sort of kind of going back to my roots and enjoying the game again, I probably wouldn't have had a long career. So there was a lesson in that for me too.
Sean, I just want to interrupt here. I don't know if you knew
Speaking
about
of
this.
lessons.
Well, before we get to the lessons, John, Shorts guy, actually is friends with Pucky the Whale, if you remember Pucky the Whale.
Oh, yeah.
He was at a Red Bull soccer game against. Why don't you explain that, Shorts guy?
Yeah,
what happened? Pucky the Whale.
Sorry. So the New York Red Bulls are my local soccer team, and our rivals, NYCFC, have their current home stadium, in quotes, if you want to put it, is Yankee Stadium, and that was back in 2017, I think. The stadium was being used, and they had to actually play a home game in Hartford, Connecticut. So when we played them at our home arena, what the New York Red Bulls did was fantastic. As City came out, they played the Brass Bonanza as their intro music to kind of troll them real good. And then Pucky the Whale showed up in our section, and we had all planned prior to Pucky showing up, we had all planned to wear Hartford jerseys. Anyone who had one to wear one, just to really give it to them. Like, oh, you don't have a home stadium, you had to play in Hartford. And all of a sudden, Pucky the Whale shows up. and we have him on the stand with us. And it was fantastic all around. And that came from us trying to do our thing and the New York Red Bulls trying to give it to City as best they could as well. So it was just a great combination of things that just to kind of stick it to him.
Well, what's been amazing to me over the years, and I was back to Hartford this summer for the first time to go to a alumni event. I hadn't been able to do it for years, and I went back and there's went back to where the ball team has their stadium there. They've got a minor league baseball team, and it was amazing. It's become so cultish. You still see a ton of Hartford Whaler paraphernalia around, tons of hats. My son, we have a Hartford Whaler jersey in the house that he wears sometimes, and that's been great to see, because those fans, not unlike New Jersey Devil fans, sort of were always sort of thought of there's the Bruins and the Rangers, and then Hartford was always this team that if you cheered for them, you were cheering for the underdog. But I tell you, those fans have kept it alive over the years, and I give them a lot of credit that they just won't let it go away. And I think that's great.
Yeah, that's what Pucky the Whale was saying, and his handler, that they're still doing all kinds of events and they're just trying to keep it alive, which was fantastic.
So we see you have a guitar over there, Sean. What song are you going to play, and what lesson do you have?
You know what? First of all, I was just going to tell you a little bit about this guitar. So this, I don't know how well you can see it here, but this was a guitar that was presented to me from my teammates in Arizona. And the funny story is, it was going to be presented when I got my 300th win. And it actually, I don't know, on the headstock, it actually says 300 wins, and inside it was custom made at the tailor shop for me. But I was traded with 299 wins. So this guitar was sitting here in Arizona. The team had all got together and had it made, and then it had to get shipped to me. So it showed up to my hotel room, and I got my win with Philadelphia, which wasn't quite, it didn't have the same sort of nostalgia to it, because I had been in Arizona for 5 years with the team, and my first win in Philadelphia happened to be my 300th career win. So this showed up in the hotel room, and it's been great. I enjoy playing it, and I really appreciated it. But they could have waited one more day to trade me. So what I've been teaching, again, real simple stuff. I mean, when you're starting out playing guitar, and you got some musicians here, guys, you've probably played with some pretty good guitar players. I'm a novice guitar player that that can play a little bit of lead when I'm in the right scenario. But for the most part, I've just been teaching real basic songs. I think my last lesson was Free Fallin', which real simple. Let me just make sure she's in tune here. Close enough. So just basically F. And a lot of, we were talking about Bon Jovi, so one of the songs that was requested was Wanted, Dead or Alive. So, obviously a little bit more intricate song, but... Whoop, that was a pick screw up there, guys, sorry. Woo. And then like for me, I don't sing. So I like playing a lot of Led Zeppelin songs, because if you don't have Robert Plant, nobody wants to sing anyway. So as a guitar player, it's great. You can play Zeppelin songs all day long. And unless somebody's really got a great voice, they stay right away from it. But I like playing a lot of the older, like. if I'm sitting around, like I said, Stairway to Heaven, Shanny would really like this if he was sitting around right now having to listen to this. I don't know what the volume sounds like there.
Sounds great.
Oh, no, we're getting it here.
That sounds great.
So again, I'm not going to take this out on tour anytime soon, but it's just been a lot of fun over the years. I'm at the point now where if I got a band, a bunch of guys around, I can jam with them. I've got a number of songs I can play. I can teach basics, and again, I just think it's a great, healthy way. Maybe right now during this whole pandemic too, if anybody's thought of picking up guitar, this is the time to do it, really. So if you have any requests, I'll take them, but I don't, like I said, I'm not singing. And if anybody wants to get on the drum, we can jam a little bit.
Hey, Scotty's a very accomplished drummer.
Who is?
Yeah, Scotty's got the drums ready.
I got a little action in my belt. Don't worry. But I want to know who tried to sing, and they couldn't. There's always one where you start jamming, someone's gonna like go to the like try to sing along. Did Shanny try to sing along and it was not good?
No, but I tell you, who does have a good voice is Claude Lemieux. Believe it or not, Claude Lemieux can he can sing, and I was shocked too because the French accent, it's kind of like Rod Stewart. I don't know where the accent goes when he starts singing, but it's the same thing with Claude. There's no French accent anymore. He actually can carry a tune.
Wow.
Hey, Sean, we got a message from the Facebook group, Campbell, who met Scotty in L.A. Hey, guys, greetings from New Zealand. That's where he's from. We're locked down here and hoping to eliminate COVID-19 soon. Man, I wish I was there. Watch some hockey. Been great to tune to your podcast. Keep up the good work. Yeah, we're international, Sean. We find fans from the Norwegian Army listening in and writing to the show. So everybody's watching. We have Matt requesting Bad Moon Rising, Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Hey, you know any Creedence? Pink Floyd.
Oh,
we got another. We got a Wish You Were Here request as well. Do you know Wish You Were Here?
Oh,
Boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
that's about all I can play on that one, but.
That was awesome.
That's awesome.
You should have like a NHL karaoke. You could just play and get someone to like sing along or something like that,
I tell you, you guys know if you're in music, the hardest thing, you got to get a good singer, and then somebody who wants to play bass. Nobody ever wants to play bass.
Oh, short guy. He's the bass. Get your bass.
I like it.
I wish I could play my drums. I wish I could play my drums in my apartment, but that doesn't work out very well.
Sorry, the Creedence one I don't have in my arsenal right now, but I'll learn some, I promise.
Joe Stansel asks, Joe Stansel asks the hockey song by Stomping Tom Connors.
Oh, God, that's a great tune. You know what? You would think over the years, after hearing that song as many times as I have no idea how to play that. I've been trying to learn the Canadian national anthem, actually. I'd like to one time get out there and play the Canadian national anthem because I've been in enough buildings where they play the U.S. and then somebody comes on and butchers the Canadian anthem. So I thought, well, maybe I'll try and learn that one day. So that's on my list right now to learn.
Hey, are you going to do it electric? Like I'll see like Zach Wilde come out and like just tear up the national anthem. So you got to do it like electric style and solo a little bit, right?
That was like Metallica did that for.
Who did?
Metallica did that during when the Sharks made it to the Stanley Cup Finals a couple years ago. They did the Star Spangled Banner. That was awesome.
I was just going to mention I've seen Metallica do it. Zach Wilde's done it. I've I want to say it was either Joe Satriani or somebody did the anthem for a baseball team. And that's incredible. I tell you what, I would be turning the Marshall up to 11 and just letting the distortion.
Let's go to 11.
Spinal Tap
Paula,
style. I love it.
Paula in the Facebook group said if you need a bass player, they got you. So I think you could probably establish a pretty good band out here if you put out the word. We should do like a whole Zoom just jam session where we can get a bunch of people and just jam out.
Get Claude to sing.
Yeah,
we get Claude to come sing.
All right. Well, I don't want to diss Shorts guy here, but I envision my band having a really good-looking female bass player. That's so that's I'm going to say about.
We can always slap a wig on them.
Yeah, we'll put a wig on him.
I take no offense to that. That would require me to shave, so no. So I take no offense to that.
Oh
man.
So do you have any
what else?
like?
Oh,
go ahead.
That's
I was going to say, do you have any other songs? See, like I play guitar horribly. I mean, and I've been picking it up and actually like trying to reteach myself. I took lessons when I was a kid and like half-assed it, so now I'm like trying to actually reteach myself how to play guitar again. And I love like that old-timey Chicago style blues or the even a deep South blues. I have like such a love or an affection for that. So you got any of that kind of like up your sleeve?
The blues shuffle is.
Go ahead, Sam. You should start singing. I got those. We ain't got no hockey blues.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, all the music I listened to growing up was all kind of based in the blues. I mean, that's Led Zeppelin, right? That's the Rolling Stones. Yeah. They'll be the first to admit that they just sort of ripped off, and for lack of a better word, the old Muddy Waters and guys like that. But on the other hand, they brought all those guys back to life. People finally started to really know about the old blues guys. So I don't do a lot of blues songs, but the bands I like listening to, their stuff is all rooted in that old blues music. I mean, I've seen Buddy Guy in concert. It was phenomenal.
Man.
I never saw B.B. King, but any of those old blues guys, if I've ever been around where they're in concert, I love to go see them. And then some of the newer guys, like Johnny Lang and Kenny Wayne Shepherd and some of those blue guitar, that's incredible music. Joe Bonamassa and guys like that. I just like listening to anybody who's better than I am. So I don't have enough time in my life to listen to all those people because that's just about everybody. But there's so many talented people out there, and I just appreciate talent. And when you can get up and play like these guys play, whether it's the genre of music that you like or not, it's still impressive, and I enjoy watching it.
There's a guy that I don't know if you've ever heard of him. If you haven't, some people have but White Buffalo, who's like White Buffalo. If you watch Sons of Anarchy, he did a lot of the music for Sons of Anarchy, but it's kind of like almost a Johnny Cash-y. He's got that real deep voice.
Oh yeah,
I highly recommend it.
Well, I will say this: I didn't know that. But I do remember when I was watching Sons of Anarchy, I do remember enjoying some of the music, and I think I did look up, just out of curiosity, who was doing that music. So I don't remember it being what you just said, White Buffalo, but I did find myself drawn in that show to the music. And you were asking me about the Jimmy Page mask earlier, and I didn't get to the story, but I never did get to meet Jimmy Page. I actually was good friends with Dave Mustaine from Megadeth. And
nice.
He was cool. He was the one that grabbed the mask for me and took it over to England. He was having lunch with Jimmy Page, and he said, "I'll take this over for you. I'm going over." So I met him on the highway here in Arizona at a gas station, and I gave him the mask, and he took it over to England to get it signed for me.
That's cool.
That's so crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I could see Mega Dave. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Speaking of, what's that?
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say he was a big Coyote fan.
Yeah.
Dave was.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah, he was living here in Arizona for a long time. He's since moved back to California, but he lived in the same neighborhood as Keith Tkachuk and Teppo Numminen, so he would come to our team parties. When we were sitting around having a couple of beers, he would just knock on the door and show up. And so I got to know him fairly well, but just an incredible musician. I mean, whether you like heavy metal or that type of music, Dave Mustaine is an incredible guitar player.
Yeah, I mean, I work in that world, in the hard rock and heavy metal world. So I've worked with Dave plenty of times, and I know he was a big Coyotes fan. And then, of course, Vinny and Dime from Pantera. They're passed on now, but they were huge Dallas Stars fans. They wrote the Dallas Stars goal song. Vinny, once he moved to Las Vegas, he was going to Golden Knight games like every time they were in town. So they were huge hockey fans there. So it's always been a big connection, I feel like, between the sport and like hard rock, heavy metal type of music.
Yeah, it's so motivational. I mean, I know my workout playlist, has Metallica on it, it has Megadeth, it has a lot of other stuff too. But for me, as a like I say, a novice guitar player, I mean, I may try doing some odds or something. I'm not going anywhere near Megadeth, Dave Mustaine. I mean, I'm just gonna little. As hard as I usually get is I'll play Led Zeppelin and bands like that, which nowadays don't even seem like hard anymore. When you got Avenged Sevenfold out there and bands like this that I really enjoy listening to. Iron Maiden was the first concert I ever saw. I saw Iron Maiden when I was 16 years old in Toronto at Massey Hall, and I was hooked on Iron Maiden. I still love Iron Maiden.
Oh wow, that's great. You must love Priest then too, Judas Priest.
Love Judas Priest. Love all those bands, but I also really love Neil Young. The singer-songwriter guys I really enjoy. Tom Petty. I think that's really.
Oh yeah.
If you're starting to learn to play guitar, there's a lot of great, Tom Petty songs. I mean, Breakdown is basically, 2 chords. Stuff like that, which is very bluesy too, or even Mary Jane's Last Dance is one I've got up and played at times in a bar with bands. It's 4 chords basically. So now I'm warming up. If you got the drums out and the bass, we can start going now.
What about some Hendrix? You know some Hendrix?
No, there's another guy. He's on, actually. I got another mask in here. I'm trying to think of who's. No, that's got Jimmy Page on this one and Eric Clapton as well. Oh, Hendrix is on the mask I just showed you guys. So the one that Jimmy Page signed, Hendrix is on the other side of it right there.
That's awesome.
Oh, very nice.
Obviously, never could get him to sign it, but he's a guy that, to me, that's just a level that if you're going to try to play Jimi Hendrix, you better play it right, and you better be really good at it. Because if you're not,
right.
Yeah, you're just going to butcher it. How many cover songs of Jimi Hendrix songs do you see people doing? There's not many of them.
Yeah, It was like Stevie Ray Vaughan was the only one that could ever touch anything that Hendrix did.
Yeah, and it's funny. I saw Stevie Ray Vaughan at the Meadowlands. I saw him open for, of all people, Robert Plant. And
really,
that must have been Robert Plant's first solo tour. So it would have been around 1988, 89, and Stevie Ray Vaughan opened. Then when he went like this, and started playing the guitar back here, I just was like, I never wanted to pick up the guitar again. I thought, I'm not even going to try it. He was playing it better behind his back than I could play in front.
That's crazy. What's the most difficult song you think you've learned? What's the one that's always been like, let me try that again? You know, there's always that one song that you're practicing, and just some part always gets you.
Yeah, to me, with me, it's always kind of the timing. It's there's always a chord or something in a song that you have to hit on. If you don't finger it properly, then you're kind of going to butcher that song. So even Stairway to Heaven, when there's a couple of the chords in that song that you know, and any song with an F chord, and if you're not barring it and you're trying to play that F chord, you can mute the strings and the whole song goes to heck for you. But I'm not somebody that sits around and tries to play anything too difficult. I want to play songs that I know I can play. If somebody can sing, or we got a guy that plays bass or a drum or drums, I can say, hey, let's play this song and we can get through it. I'm not overly interested in trying to challenge myself to the point of frustration. That I did enough of that playing goal.
Oh man.
It's funny.
Speaking of that.
Oh, go ahead, George.
No, I was just gonna ask. Do you still get a chance to play goal ever anymore, or no? Or did you give that up for now?
Well, I didn't. I played a lot when I first retired because I went right back into coaching with the Coyotes, and I was on the ice every day with the goalies. We had Brizgalov there, we had Mike Smith, we had Devin Dubnyk. So we had good goalies and all guys that played a lot. So when they needed a day off, I'd throw the gear back on, and I was still competitive enough and good enough that I could step in the net and feel like I was a challenge for the shooters. But then I had 2 hip replacements. I've had 2 full hip replacements. And since I did that, I just realized, I'm not going to go out there and, first of all, get hurt and have to get a surgery done again. And second of all, you just get to that stage where you're no longer as competitive. And from playing goal, it's not a fun position if you can't give your best. It's not like you can go out and play half-hearted and expect to enjoy it. You got to give everything to play goal. And I just don't have that in me anymore, and I'm not afraid to admit it, that you're a better goalie than I am now, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, you get more frustrated knowing what you used to be able to do, and those goals that go in, you're like, oh, I know I could have stopped that. It gets more frustrating, so I get that.
Yeah, and shooters, if anybody's had this experience, anybody who played men's hockey, or shooters are annoying. You guys are annoying. Like when you score, you rub it in. And no disrespect here, but I don't want everybody coming by me after they've scored and said, you used to play in the NHL? Like, yeah, I did, but it was like 13 years ago I retired. So what do you expect? I'm not what I used to be, and I'm okay with that. That's
2 new hits later.
You're 100% right. There's some jerk that's going to get by and be like, oh, I can't believe you couldn't stop that. Who's like 45 pounds.
Right. And then he's throwing on Twitter that he beat Sean Burke for 3 goals today. And I'm like, yeah, but that's
exactly.
like Robert Plant to still hit the high note in Whole Lot of Love. I mean, those days are done.
We have one last request. Do you know any Bruce songs to tie in the whole Jersey aspect?
You know what? I'm so embarrassed right now to say that I haven't played any Bruce Springsteen songs forever, so I wouldn't even attempt it right now. I used to play, what songs did I like? Yeah, that one, but you need to play that on the electric to make it sound anything close to good. So right now, there's no Bruce that I could play, but if
How about
it makes
Bon
the list,
Jovi?
You're really stumping me now. You're killing me. I'd have to go back into my memory here to come up with any Bon Jovi or Bruce, but if it makes anybody feel any better, I played on stage with Garth Brooks, and we did 2 tunes that weren't Garth Brooks tunes because I didn't know any of his, and I was on stage with him. So we played Cat Stevens' Wild World, and we played Kenny Rogers' The Gambler because we were in Vegas at the time. So my vocabulary and my music library is fairly limited. I'll do all the Led Zeppelin you want. I'll do Pink Floyd songs like that, but I'd have to sit here and learn a couple of those songs again.
That's awesome.
Hey,
All right.
Hey, Sean.
Why don't you give us one more Zeppelin? Give us one more Zeppelin then.
Okay, well, let's do something a little heavier, even though it's an acoustic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I'm in the wrong key. I'm in the wrong key. Let's move it down. My guitar just went out of tune. Yeah, my guitar just went out of tune. There we go.
Nice.
I'm not going to do all the moaning and stuff in that song, okay? We'll get that straight right now.
Oh my god, that was great. Hey, Sean, I don't know if you've ever seen this band. There's a Led Zeppelin cover band called Led Zeppelin. I live in Los Angeles, and they play at the Whiskey all the time. If you ever get a chance to see them, man, if you're a big Zeppelin fan, like I was blown away when I saw them. You know, I'm like, oh, cover band, whatever. They were incredible. If you ever get a chance, Led Zeppelin, I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I've read about them. I know there's an all-female band like Led Zeppelin or something too that I've read that's incredibly authentic and I'd love to see a Led Zeppelin cover band. The problem for me with that band is it's almost like I'm glad I've never met Jimmy Page in some ways or Robert Plant, because I would hope that if I did, I'd walk away feeling like, you know what, that was what I expected, because I've been such a big fan over the years, and you never want to meet somebody like that doesn't sort of live up to your expectations. So I'm okay right now with what I have in my mind and my image of those guys, because to me, like, they both seem really cool, and that seems like a great band. I'd love to have a beer with those guys and just hear the stories someday, though.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Sean, you're getting some great compliments in the Facebook Live. Matt writes, seems like a good guy to be stuck quarantining with. There's all this Devils win the cup, all this stuff. But we really appreciate you coming on to the podcast and giving us your time and giving us a break. Just like it's like what Dano said, this is like therapy for us right now more than ever. Really appreciate it. And I just want to say a couple things. Number one, I'm going to send you Shorts Guys, John's scouting video because he really wants to be an e-bug. We're really pushing that. and give your honest opinion because we want him. And also we'll give you 10% if he throws the game against the Rangers or with the Rangers for us. But that'll be our little secret. I'll edit this out on the recording. And also, when you record your Canadian national anthem, we play Arlette singing before. Let us know if you record it, whether it's video or audio. We'll play it in the beginning of our podcast and credit you for it. That'd be awesome, because I've been, I thought about asking Arlette to sing it, but I wanted somebody that was Canadian, but I didn't know who to look. But if you could play a guitar, that'd be awesome. National anthem, we would put this permanently on the Let's Go Devils podcast. And also, normally I play some background music to take it away and end the podcast. Would you mind playing something, anything you want, take it away, and to end the Let's Go Devils podcast? And I'll say this. Thank you, Sean Burke. What are you going to play?
I'll just go back and play Tom Petty, Mary Jane's Last Dance, because obviously we lost Tom Petty not that long ago, and I was planning on seeing him in concert, taking my wife. She had never seen that band. They're a great band, and we'll never get that chance, so I'll play that. But I want to thank you guys for having me on. I also want to say, don't discount what a great thing it is you're doing right now through this whole pandemic, because this has been a lot of fun for me. And I just realized how much fun this must be for your listeners and your viewers, because it definitely gets our minds off all the other stuff that's going on right now. So thank you guys for having me on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Honor to have you on, man. Thank you.
All right, I'll finish with some Tom Petty.